Okay, hello. So in this last video I want to talk very briefly about the project, which is going to be about building your own little video game called Hangman. So you get to do that, and remember that building video games is hard. So you want to use the test to make sure that you don't have any problems in your implementation before you generate your token file and upload it. So where should we start? I guess we should start by looking a little on the exercise from afar. So the exercise is basically to implement this function called Hangman, which allows you to iteratively input letters and get responses back, and at the end you'll get a score. So your job will be to replicate these interactions that are shown here in this example and in the snippets, which you should be able to replicate exactly in the console using print statements. And this is one of the places where the test can really come in handy, because they will tell you if you have a spelling mistake or a missing period or something like that, and then you can easily correct it. So the way this Hangman game is built is using a number of supporting functions you can implement one at a time. And these functions are quite a lot simpler than the full game, and I think it's important that you try to focus on them. Start with the first one and then move on to the second one, and so on. And each time you do one of the functions, go out here, find the tests. Not this one, maybe this one. And try these smaller functions, not this one, which is testing the entire game, but these functions, which will allow you to sort of get an indication if you're on the right track. So look at those first. So for instance, the first test you want to look at is the test for where the word is guessed. So that would be this one, for instance. And then you move on to this one, and that would be this one. And then you would move on to this one, which will be this one over here. Okay, when you're done with that, you actually need to play Hangman, which is a game where you enter letters and then you get a response back. So I want to talk a little about how we input letters to Python from the console. So I'm going to go out here, just open hangman.py. This is the Hangman function. And then what I think I'll do is that I'll call it using some input arguments like this. Here's the Hangman function. And we'll just print something out and put in a breakpoint, because what I want to show here is how we can use the input function. Because this is not something that we've seen in the exercises, but it's only discussed in the book. So we want to be able to read in words. So what we can do here is that we can say letter equals input. Please input a letter. Oops, not input, input. And now what happens is that if I run this code, it asks me to input a letter, and then I write. Oh, that was not that. Yeah, I think this maybe this doesn't work in the debug console, or maybe there's another problem. Interesting. Let's just run this file then, because now it asks me to input a letter, and I can do that. So I can input x, and then this variable will be assigned to x. Let me just try it once more in the debugger, because I think it's useful to see. So please input a letter, let's say A, and now we can see that letter is equal to A. So this is how we can read in the inputs from the user. In the game Hangman, we need to be able to do that multiple times. So it should first ask us like a welcome screen, and then we should get a number of guesses. And that probably means that there needs to be some kind of loop. Like loop here. So it's something like make a greeting, start a loop, ask for letters, do stuff, print end game, win game, etc. So that would be probably the general structure of this hangman game. Let's talk a little bit about the tests, because I mean the formatting can be a little bit gruesome if you just try to make sure everything is right. So when I call this hangman game, what it's supposed to print out right in the beginning are these 4 lines. So it's supposed to say hello. We need to guess a word that contains 3 letters. That would be cow. In 6 attempts, and that would be the 6. A few dots. You have 6 guesses left. That's the 6. Then it prints out all the available letters, and this needs to change as we make more guesses. And then it asks for an input. So this line will be made using an input command, probably. So let's try to see how we can make test to make this a little bit easier. So let me just try to write some lines here, and I'm just going to do it naively. Hello and welcome to Hangman, blah blah blah. Print, and then I guess there are some dashes. Print what? You have some guesses left, and print there are some letters, blah blah, please select one. Okay, this is just my very early version of this function. Now, in order to check if this is correct, which it may be, who knows, we would go out to the test, then we would find the test for hangman, and then we would probably start with the startup test, which test what happens right on startup, and let's try to run that and see what happens. Actually, let's go to the test results and then see what happens. So what happens here is that it prints out that the startup has failed, and it determines that this first input is different than what it's supposed to be, which is this. And we need to correct that in order to make that test fail. And then I think there are some other things that also fails, but that's the upshot of it. So you can use these tests to see exactly which parts of your output is poorly formatted and prevents you from getting a full score for the test. And that's why it's super important to use these tests as you move along, because that'll make sure that you're not missing something silly like a period, or you have failed to capitalize Bob, or any of the other things that can mess you up in Python, because in Python text comparison, everything needs to be completely the same in order for that to work. So yeah, start out simply with these first 3 normal assignments, and then move on to the full game and see how far you can get. So thanks for your attention, and good luck with the project.